All right. It appears that we're going. I think we're going. All right. Oh wait, change this to all live chat. There we go. All right. All right, whatever. Hey, good morning. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo, with yet another episode of Redstone Lapis Lazuli. Hello. Hi. I've survived another week. Yet again, here I am. Here I get. Oh no! What happened? I fucking crashed again. See, dude, what happened is I pressed the wrong button. Instead of pressing T, I press Y, and it makes the whole game crash. What is it that's bound to Y that makes everything crash? That's the second time I've done that. I press one little button, and the whole thing crashes. Hi. Let me see if I can like fix the glare or whatever. Let's see, single player. There we go. Let's get back into this. Yes, my mug, my Black Joy Oregon mug. Check that out. Wow. You can't hardly see it because of the, but yeah. It's steel. It's metal. It's a metal mug. Oh look, now I'm over here. Why wasn't I over here? So yeah, this is my quick and easy frog light farm. Like, magma creams spawn in here, and the frogs will eat the magma creams. Well, they're too big when they first come in, so the powdered snow is there to shrink the magma cubes into bite-sized pieces. Once because you can, if you go in here, you start freezing and taking, you know, if you're in here long enough, I'll start taking damage. You know, sitting in powdered snow. Check it out. So, yeah, that's what happens to magma cubes, and they start getting damaged, and they get small, and then little froggies eat them. Then I have a minecart underneath here that picks up everything. Right? You're still doing what you're supposed to be doing? I haven't seen it pop up yet. I'm a little bit concerned. Oh yeah, there it goes. See? It's going just fine. So yeah, that's but to get to this point, to get these frogs in here, and to get them with all the colors. Why did you stop? To get all the colors, it was an ordeal. Okay, anyways, it was an ordeal. I had to see, like, I had to spawn a whole bunch of little, I had to breed a bunch of the frogs. So yeah, it doesn't work unless something spawns in there. And I've tried to spawn proof the area, but it's a really big area, and I'm not able to spawn proof it totally. Like you can see, like they're just spawning everywhere around here. Nothing I can do about it. But eventually something spawns in here, and then the frogs will take care of them. So it works. I mean, these frog lights are great. I love these frog lights. Get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah. Put the carpet away. Man, why am I full of junk? Because you were playing last night. Alright, here we go. Oh, yeah, you see? Okay, so you can see the magma cubes go in there, but they get shrunk down by the glass. And now they're medium-sized magma cubes, but they're too big. As soon as they become small enough, then frogs can eat them, and they drop little frog lights. You can see them. Oh yeah, they're going nuts. They're just eating. Once there's tiny bite size, the frogs just massacre them. Ah, I love it. I love it. So watch. That guy's gonna shrink down eventually. Oh yeah, and dropping off all the lights, you see? So bit by bit. And if I think there's like too many of one color, I can adjust it. But watch as these guys shrink. I wonder if I can make it closer together so that it happens faster. But then I'm afraid that nothing will spawn. Alright, now they're tiny and the frogs are just gonna eat them up. Like instantly. As soon as they shrink down, they get eaten up. Ah ha 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 ha. Come on, do it. Let's do it. Too impatient. Come on. There it goes. So there's the little cubes, and they just get eaten up by all the frogs. Ah ha 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 ha. And then, yeah, it gets picked up over here and dropped off. Ha ha ha. Easy peasy for me. And yeah, it makes a nice yellow light, makes a nice green light, and then you got your pink light over there, and over here. Yeah, these frog lights were nice, but they weren't just easy find the frogs and put them in. I had to, you have to raise them in certain areas. You have to, yeah, you have to, they have to be born in certain locations. If they're not born in the right location, then they won't be a certain color. And then, like, yeah. So if you want a white frog that makes pink frog lights, they have to be born in warm biomes. If you want green frogs that make green frog lights, you have to make them in cold biomes. That's why I made this little mini base here. It's my cold biome base where I grew up some frogs. But it's good also because I could use cauldrons to refill the powdered snow. All this area is powdered snow. I can't walk on it because I don't. Oh yeah, I can. This is okay. But this part is powdered snow. I can't walk on it, else I fall through, you see? And start freezing to death. But unfortunately, it doesn't auto-renew itself. You have to catch it in a cauldron and then put it back if you want it to fix. I lost, like, a while ago, I tried to ride my horse up here to the mountains, and I fell into this big patch of powdered snow, and my horse died. And I almost died. I almost didn't make it out. So yeah, powdered snow, and it works really good against mobs because they don't even see it. They try to walk on it and they fall right through, and then they can't jump out. So it's great. I like the physics mod just for the weather particles, man. I miss weather particles. Yeah, seeing that rain actually fall, yeah, that's pretty good. And then what do frog lights do for us? What do they do for us? They make these awesome little lamps. Check out that lamp, isn't it cool? Look at these lamps. They just make nice little lamps. They're neat. But it took a lot of work to get the frogs. I had to find them. I had to bring them back to my base. I had to get them to make tadpoles. And then I had to get them into the nether. Then I had to make that trap to catch all the other guys. Anyways, yeah. Here's where I grew some of them. This is where I got the temperate ones, the orange ones, or the brown ones. The brown ones were here. The white ones were in the warm biome, and the green ones were in the cold biome. One moment, please. Oh my. In the morning, like, all my sinuses drain out. Because I'm not laying down anymore, so they can drain out. So yeah, that's what I've been spending a lot of time in Minecraft. It's not just hunky. Oh yeah, I mean, I went to I found a mansion. I found a woodland mansion. Totally by accident. Here, let's go there. Let's go there. I'd rather hang out there than here. Found a woodland mansion right there. I made a train track ride to it and everything. So over there is the Nether Fortress. You can see the Nether Fortress. I've already went through it though. And this way leads to the woodland mansion. Yeah, the Nether, hey? Pretty big and scary. I might make a gold farm right here. That's like my only patch of nether waste. That's like the best patch of nether waste. Uh-oh. Yeah, these guys will blow up my tracks. I need to kill them. Yeah, so you should probably watch all my shows at 2 times speed, because it's kind of slow, right? It's a little bit slow. It all happens in real time. I'm real time live streaming. This isn't like a pre-recording. Yeah, live. I'm live. So this is a woodland mansion I found. I just wandered around, was boating around, and I found this woodland mansion. And I broke in, and I had to fight a bunch of bad guys. Yeah, here's the entrance, the front door, right? It goes nowhere. But each floor has special things, like, ooh, look at a flower shop. Or each room is decorated, and of course the rooms all had bad guys in them for me to kill. Oops, yeah. Oh, the pillager, whatever. Storage room with all these are empty boxes. None of these boxes have anything in them. A little like, you can't grow anything here, guys, because there's no water. Anyways, I went through this whole mansion and I cleared it out. And then I took a boat ride over to the swamp over here. I found a swamp. It wasn't far. It's not a very big swamp. But I didn't need a big swamp. I just needed to find a frog. Which I found eventually. It took a while. See all the torches, right? Because I was running around looking for frogs. Where are you, my froggy friend? Oh, oops. Not quite there. But yes, I had a base. I was making a base here. It wasn't done. But I had quite a bit of stuff here. Look at this stuff that I just left here. Diamonds and shit. What are you doing, dude? Bring that with you. What is this? What are you doing leaving all this good stuff behind? Yeah. I got these cool threads. I got this cool outfit trimming to make my armor trim. So I'm like, oh, ooh, illager. Look at me. I'm like a conjurer person. Ooh, scary. Okay. So yeah, I was chilling out over here, right, looking for frogs because it's a swamp, and I spent like a lot of time just because frogs seem to be rare. And on the other side is the So yeah, that was to get to this point was a lot of work. It doesn't look like it, right? It looks like yeah, rah, but I assure you, it took some effort to get to the point where I can just get tons of frog lights. All right, now I seem to have lost my boat because I just ditched it somewhere. There it is. La la la. Oh, my options. No, looky. Ah, see, that's much better, right? With no numbers up in the corner. It's more immersive this way. Immersion. That's how I got the frog in. I had put it in a minecart and I like dragged it. I pushed it into the nether. The first froggy. Actually, it wasn't the first froggy. That was like the second froggy. The first froggy voluntarily jumped into the nether portal. Like, I didn't do anything. They just walked in. Or maybe I didn't do anything. I don't remember how it went. So yeah, but this travel by train track is until I get elytra wings, this is the way to do it. The way to get around safely. Well, relatively safely. Relatively safely. I was hoping there would be magma cubes in there. No magma cubes. Alright. So this brings us back to here, where I use the frog lights to make interesting lamps, like this one here under there, and that green light. I like that green light. It goes well with the mossy carpet. Oh yeah, yawn. So man, you know what? I don't have much of a show for you today. Like, I had like a massive energy drain last week, or this week. It just like sucked up all my energy. It just sucked it all up. So it was like all I mean, I can go through what I got. I don't have a whole lot. I mean, I can tell you about what happened during my week. I mean, there's not a lot. I started hanging out outside again, a little bit, and talking to some people. And the general feeling I got from a lot of people was that, not from a lot of people, but from some people, the general feeling I got from some people is that they were utterly demoralized in terms of like what they believe the United States government is and does. They were utterly demoralized. I would ask them, I would like to, what's going on? And they would tell me that the government is filled with corruption. It doesn't do anything it's supposed to do. It actively harms innovation, like by killing like people who might disrupt the oil industry, like conspiracy theory level stuff. Like, I'm like, okay, for any of that, please give me some like specifics. Let's be specific. Like, I will buy whatever you're telling me, but I need you to be specific in order for me to buy it. And I would totally go with you there if you can just be specific. And the people couldn't do it. None of them can do it. None of them. The closest they got, one person got, was they said there was a guy who invented an engine that runs off of used oil and water. And it gets all this gas mileage and stuff. And I've heard of this guy before. I've seen it. I've seen that thing because, you know, it sounds great, right? But where's the energy coming from? The energy is coming from the oil. It's not coming from the water. It's coming from the oil. Maybe you can get more gas mileage out of it, but you're still getting the energy out of the oil. And it's probably a dirtier version of the combustion engine. Like, I don't know, right? I'm not a mechanic. I didn't study the science behind it. But I figure, why would these car companies, these billion-dollar car companies, sit on technology that would cut their fuel costs in half? Like, look at I bought a Toyota Prius specifically because it had 50 miles to the gallon. That's why I bought it. It's because it had such good gas mileage. And it's not a magic water using car. It's just a car that you know that uses battery power to help, I guess, to help with stuff. And it's aerodynamic and light materials and a bunch of other stuff to get that 50 miles per gallon. But it's not through magic technology of burning water to get energy, because you can't do it. You can't get... The only way you get energy out of water is if you apply electricity to the water. What that does is the water is made up of H2O, one hydrogen, and two oxygen. I think it's that way. H2 and then O. So it might be two hydrogen and one oxygen. Yeah, I think it's that way. I think it's 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. So when you put electricity into water, the electricity breaks the bond between the oxygen and the hydrogen, and they separate. So instead of being water, they break up into oxygen molecule and 2 hydrogen molecules. They just separate. The hydrogen, yeah, you can burn that stuff. What you do is you recombine it with oxygen, and it releases energy. Because you see, it took energy to break them apart. You have water, and you have to apply electricity to the water. I should actually do it to the water. So that takes, where do you get the electricity? You have to generate it somehow. You have to generate the electricity somehow. So you have to make power out here to apply it to the water to get it to separate into hydrogen and oxygen. So great. Now you have hydrogen floating around, and you can grab that hydrogen, you grab the hydrogen, and you put it into a tank. Hydrogen tank, sure, right here, hydrogen tank, boom. You have a hydrogen tank now. You can take that hydrogen, and you just grab oxygen from out of the air, and you put them back together, and it creates energy. So this process of separating, of breaking apart the hydrogen and oxygen takes energy. You have to get energy from somewhere else. You have to get energy from somewhere else and bring it to the water and to make it into hydrogen. You capture the hydrogen, and then you can store it in a tank. Later on, you grab oxygen from the atmosphere, and you recombine it for free, basically, with you don't need power. You don't need external power. It's free to combine oxygen with hydrogen, basically free to combine these two. And when you do, it releases a big explosion of energy. See how that works? That's fantastic. But you can't just take regular water and burn it. You can't just take regular water. It doesn't work like that. You have to do something to it. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because it's really important how the United States or the world, it's really important how the world generates energy. The way we generate energy right now is by burning hydrocarbon, by burning coal or oil or natural gas. One moment. Okay, the way we generate energy right now, electricity right now, is through burning coal, oil, or natural gas. All of those three things, what does it mean to burn something? It's different. It's a different process than with hydrogen. When you burn hydrogen, when you do hydrogen, oh, that's not the hydrogen. When you do hydrogen, the reason why this is so nice is because remember, this is to get the energy out of hydrogen. It's almost free. All you do is you take the oxygen out of the atmosphere and put it back into the hydrogen, and then boom, you make a bunch of energy. Why? Because the energy, the first part of this equation of this energy thing, didn't happen here. It happened over here. Well, you took some other energy. Well, you took like coal or oil to make electricity, and then you took the electricity to water. Let me go grab redstone. Then you took the electricity to water to transform it into since I'm here, I'm gonna grab a coal block. Obsidian, coal. So no, this is not it's a coal block that's doing it. We're burning hydrocarbons. We're burning hydrocarbons, and then we're putting it to water. You burn hydrocarbons to get electricity, and then you take the electricity to the water. That's where the energy comes from. With hydrogen, it comes from burning hydrocarbons to transform water into hydrogen, and then later on, just so we could store it, just so we could hold it in a place, right? Or like coal by itself is already in storage. It just sits there. You have to apply fire, oxygen for free from the environment to get it to release its energy. Same thing here. All you've done is you've taken this energy and you've broken this up to store it again in a cleaner version. That's all you've done. Because now we use coal to power everything. Coal is used to power our whole society. Coal or oil or natural gas. And when you do that, remember, here they use electricity to separate out, to break apart water and or oxygen and hydrogen. It takes energy to break them apart. To make this stuff, oil, to make oil, you take energy from the sun in the plants. Then the plants die. And instead of giving that energy back to the atmosphere, it stays within the plant. And then all the dead plants fall on top of each other. And then get covered with water so that they don't decompose with oxygen. No oxygen gets to them. So there's no oxygen, and if you have no oxygen, you can't burn, right? That's the whole point of burning. Burning is just adding oxygen to something, a lot of it. Okay, and then that stuff got compressed really, really, really hard by the weight of rock and lots of time, inconceivable amounts of time, millions upon millions of years that to a human, your brain can't even conceive of it, has no recollection of it. Like, you feel like your lifetime is a long time? Try thousands and thousands and thousands of lifetimes. So the energy to make this is a lot, and and basically, how did you make this stuff? You took carbon dioxide out of the air and you put it into the ground. So this oil is made up of air from millions and millions of years ago. And when we burn it, we take that air out and put it back into our air, our present day air. So you do that enough times, you put enough of ancient air back into our present air, and it's going to change our environment. And it has. Oh, I didn't make a picture of that. Dude, here, let me go take a picture of that real quick. Dude, I am super slow this morning. What is this? All right, here, super slow in the morning. I can go to my page, my Facebook page, because I know it's there. I go down, my profile. I go down to Climate Reanalyzer. The Climate Reanalyzer. I'm going to do a snip and sketch. Here, I'm going to shrink this down a bit. And then I'm going to do snip tool, and make a new one. And do that. Ta-da! Bless me. All right. What have I done? This right here is the temperature anomaly reanalyzer. I don't know. I do know. Check it out. So what this does is it's measured the temperature, the average temperature of the whole world. The whole world, right? Not just in your location, not just the weather in your state, but the whole world. Since 1979, they've been tracking the temperature. The global temperature, the global average temperature for the whole world since 1979. And what they're noticing is 2023 is that we're starting to get way out of bounds of all these other ones. Like this huge gap right there, we're going to see more and more huge gaps where the temperature is going to be way higher than what we've normally had, because it's a feedback mechanism. We've put so much hot air into the environment that we've melted our polar ice caps, and we're heating up the oceans so that the fishes die in the oceans en masse. That's what happens when you take ancient air and you put it into the environment at a mass scale for 100 years. That's what we've done. Like, so what that ends up being is that Earth reaches hottest day ever recorded 4 days in a row. It's hottest. It's hotter. The hottest average for like 100,000 years. It was ridiculous. Yeah, on July 4th, yesterday was the world's hottest day in 125,000 years. On average. July 4th, hottest day on record, in fact. Hottest day on record for the planet Earth in 125,000 years. So you can deny climate change all you want, but the science is there regardless. The science is real. The effects are real. You can deny it all you want. I don't care. You sound like an idiot. So hydrogen is not going to be the solution, right? Because it's just a way of storing energy. It's like a battery. Hydrogen is just another form of battery power. That's all it is, another form of battery power. Because you still have to burn coal or hydrocarbons to get the electricity, to break up the water, to get the hydrogen. And we burn coal and oil to power our generators to make electricity right now. Because with coal, we're able to modulate the amount of power that goes out. We can give it more fuel, or we can give it less fuel. Or we can shut it down if we need to. That's the nice thing about hydrocarbons, is that you can just turn it on and off. If you had a nuclear power plant instead, the old school light water reactors. If you had a light water reactor, you cannot shut it down. You cannot vary the amount of fuel you give it. It is a steady amount of power you give it, and it's really, really hard to shut it off and turn it back on again. It's a pain in the butt. So, but if you did nuclear power, that would get away from burning oil and putting ancient air back into our present air, which is causing all the heat to happen. Man, I did a whole episode about this. I've done like episodes about this, tons of episodes, about how we shouldn't be doing this. We should be using instead a molten salt nuclear reactor. There's a guy named Kurt Sorensen. His politics are terrible. Ignore him when he talks about politics. His politics are crap. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Why would he? It's outside his area of expertise. So ignore Kurt Sorensen when he talks about politics. He's not a political scientist. No, Kurt Sorensen is a nuclear scientist. Listen to him, not for his politics, but his nuclear science. His nuclear science is pretty baller, pretty nice. He gives for free a quick lesson on how nuclear reactors work on the internet. You can check it out. It's really cool. And it really helps to understand how nuclear reactors work. Like, it's not that hard. Like, you don't need to learn all the math behind it. All you need to do is understand the concepts. Putting all this stuff away. Coal! So yeah. So we're in our current situation. for me, the way I see it, that is the climate change is the Meteo from Final Fantasy VII that's coming to destroy all life on Earth. Climate change is the thing the whole planet should be focused on in order to mitigate, to stop the meteor from slamming directly into our planet. It's too late to stop the damage. Meteo is going to hit us. The climate change is going to hit us. It's already going to happen. What we need to do is band together as an entire planet to stop the whole thing from hitting us. If we can mitigate the damage, that would be the best. We've got to mitigate the damage. And the way we mitigate the damage is by getting off of oil. We get off of oil. But that's a big problem. That's a big problem because, again, remember, the whole world is running on oil. The whole world is running on oil. The United States, the whole West is running on oil. I think the only country that is 100% renewables is Costa Rica. So we're like, great. Look at Costa Rica's great. They can run their whole nation on renewables. Like, can they though? Can they? Who is Costa Rica's military? They don't have one. Why not? Because they made an agreement with the United States for security. So Costa Rica gets its, protection, its military from the United States. The United States makes its military with hydrocarbons through this. So is Costa Rica really 100% energy independent, running on renewables? No. They're dependent upon another nation for protection, and that nation burns hydrocarbons. So we're looking at this horrible war in Ukraine from the Russian invasion. How is it even possible that there's that Russia can do this horrible war against Ukraine, even after it has all these sanctions put on its economy? How can it do this? Because of oil. It sold a bunch of oil to Europe for many years, like 20 years. It sold oil to Europe. And Europe has no energy, sources. So sure, it'll sell. It's either buy oil from the Americans for 4 times the price, or buy it from Russia, and they can build a pipeline to you. Yeah. So Europe went with the Russian oil, which is great, right? Germany grew out its economy, and the European Union became an economic powerhouse because of cheap electricity. France, not so much. Why? Because France tries to be as energy independent as possible. Unlike a lot of other nations, France went full on into nuclear power. They went full bore into nuclear power. They're like, we don't want to be dependent upon the Americans for energy. Forget that noise. We're making our own energy with the atom. And so yeah, they made a lot of nuclear power plants in France. But they needed a lot of them. So I don't know if, and they're a lot of work to maintain, and they're expensive. So is it the best idea? I don't know. I think it was an intermediary step so that they could learn more about nuclear power before we go to the next step. Because I do believe that nuclear power is an integral part of our energy solution going forward to stop climate change. Man, see, I should have got a battery. Anyways, I've already done a show on that. But since the world still runs on oil, do you think Vladimir Putin wants to transition to a carbon-free economy where we no longer burn hydrocarbons? Or Russia gets its entire power from the sale of oil. If oil were to go away, they would have no money and no power. They do not want to leave oil. It's the same thing with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia gets its energy and power from oil. Do you think they want to leave oil? No, they want the world to take as much oil as possible. Are they concerned about environmental destruction? No, because remember, in the minds of the elites, they believe they can use their money to shield themselves from the effects of climate change. In their mind, the only people who will suffer from climate change will be the poor. Now, they're half right. They're half right in that the poor people will suffer the most from climate change because they have the least resources to mitigate the damage. That's true. That's true. But the damage is not going to be limited to just poor people. The damage of climate change is going to reverberate throughout the entire human superstructure. And billionaires, no matter how much they try to isolate themselves from the rest of humanity, they still need the rest of humanity. They cannot completely cut themselves off from the rest of humanity. They can't do it. They can't do it. So they too will suffer the effects of climate change. It's hubris of them to think that they could insulate themselves through their wealth. It's hubris. It's crazy. So strongmen like Vladimir Putin and Mohammed bin Salman do not want to leave oil because that's how the source of their power. And they have the false belief that they can protect themselves with their wealth and only the poor people will suffer. That's me and you, by the way. When I say poor people, I'm talking about 80% of American society. I mean 80% of the world. Like I'm not saying just like literally homeless people. I mean poor people like it doesn't like for a lot of us we don't feel poor, right? It doesn't feel like we're poor. Like so it's almost like an insult to call us poor. Like what do you mean poor, dude? I've got a roof over my head, I've got health insurance, I've got a car, like I'm not hungry. Like I'm not poor. And then I got to say, well like how is it that you have to pay or like how is it that you can't leave your insurer or your job else you lose your health insurance? Else then you don't have health care anymore. Like how is it that you need a car in order to go anywhere? Why don't you have public transportation? Like how is it that you even have homeless people? Why isn't housing free? For like you see what I mean? And then I start to look, I'm like, yeah, like if I count my wealth as in like everyone around me too, like what's available for me just to take advantage of, I don't have all that much. When I look over at Elon Musk. Elon Musk has a private jet, and there are services that will track the location of Elon Musk's private jet. That thing is every day. It's flying to a new state or a new country every day. Every day. He uses that private jet like I use my bicycle. Well, if I had a bicycle. like he uses that thing to go everywhere. Private jets burn a shit ton of hydrocarbons and add a whole bunch of ancient air to our present air to ruin it, to make us have to mess up our climate. Private jets are horrible, and yet here's Elon Musk using it like it's nothing. He's dumping carbon into the atmosphere like it's nothing. Whereas, if we would use our wealth instead of having it hoarded in the hands of billionaires, instead, if we would do things like build high-speed rail, that would eliminate tons of cars off the street. That would help people transport themselves all across the country, and it would eliminate a massive source of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. Like it would be fantastic. That's social wealth. That's when a people start to become wealthy. When the wealth is socialized. A country isn't wealthy when a few oligarchs control the vast majority of wealth and the masses hardly have anything. That's not wealth. That's not a wealthy country. Let's go to the cherry blossom biome. So we got all these, we got like at least a couple authoritarian countries. Saudi Arabia, and Russia, who gained their power from the hydrocarbon. Then we have the opposite situation when it comes to China. China has no hydrocarbons, no energy source. So it has to import all of its energy from Saudi Arabia. And that need to import energy is a massive security risk for China, which is one of the reasons why it wants to secure the South China Seas and it wants to secure Taiwan so that no threat can come to its import routes of energy from Saudi Arabia, from the Middle East. Right now, it's burning coal, and it's awful for the environment. Like, if you want to talk about, like, sure, China's the number one consumer, or the number one economy in the world, right? But they're also the number one burners of coal. Man, they make ridiculous amounts of pollution. They're the ones who are like massively polluting the environment. Now they say, hey guys, we're just playing catch up to all you other industrialized nations who already burned your coal to get to a level of development where you didn't need to burn coal anymore. You could burn natural gas or whatever. Like, China's not there yet. We didn't get a head start like all you other ones did. So we're just going through the same stage that all the other industrialized countries went through first. We're just bigger when we do it. And that's how they justify their pollution. And you'll say, okay, China, that's good and fine and all, but again, no one knew about pollution back then, number one. And number two, there are other ways, like nowadays, there are other ways of doing it. You're kind of killing us all by burning all these hydrocarbons. So China said, fine. We're going to look for other ways of generating electricity that don't create carbon. And so one of the ways they did was through nuclear power plants. So China has a bunch of nuclear power plants, and they're building a bunch more. Old-style nuclear power plants, the bad kind, the kind I hate. Yep, China's building them. And when they build them, they don't build them as well as the West. They release... Everyone's worried about the pollution released from Fukushima. But China releases like a Fukushima amount of pollution like every day from their nuclear power plants on the coasts. And they don't even care. They don't even care. They're just... Ooh. Bees nests. I could have came here for bees nests. Three of them, dude. There's a bunch of bees here. Well, yeah. Look at all the flowers everywhere. Right? Another bee's nest. Holy shamoly. They're all over the place. Ooh, there's a lava pool here. How funny is that? Hot springs, dude. They're hot springs on onsen. This is for the onsen. There's another one. They're everywhere. Okay, so what did China do? What did China do? Because it has no energy like Russia and Saudi Arabia and the United States. but it needs a bunch of energy in order to grow its economy. So it was burning hydrocarbons, but it was polluting its people a lot, and other countries were getting mad at it. So it made nuclear power plants, but those are hard to maintain and expensive and dangerous. So remember I told you how in the 1960s a guy named Alvin Weinberg invented a new type of nuclear reactor called the molten salt reactor? He really did that. He really did that. It really happened. And he tried to get the United States government to pick it up. But they would not do it because private industry already ran with the light water reactor, and they did not want to spend a bunch of money and energy to have to redesign everything to make this new type of reactor. It didn't. They needed to get their money back from their last investment. So So Alvin Weinberg, director of Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, specifics, you see, tried another route. He went to the Army and the Air Force, and he's like, "Look, guys, I can make you a bomber. I can make you a nuclear bomber that never has to land and is totally safe while it's flying up in the air." And the Air Force is like, "All right, go ahead, guy, do it. I dare you." So his crew literally made a plane with a molten salt reactor inside of a jet, with a molten salt reactor inside of it, and it flew in the air. It was flying around, and that thing did not need to land, ever. Never needed to land, because there's a freaking nuclear reactor inside of it that was self-sustaining, that didn't need any fiddling to get it to work. It just works, right? It was such a great reactor. It was safe enough to fly in a plane. So they made a nuclear-powered reactor, or nuclear-powered plane that could fly indefinitely, forever. Sounds great, right? It was defeated by another technology called the ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. Why would you need a plane that flies forever? Why would you even need that? So you could drop bombs. You could fly from your country to their country, drop bombs, and nuclear bombs, and then fly back home. So you could drop nuclear bombs. A bomber. You're a bomber. Dude, you need to fly forever because you're a bomber. And you can't land anywhere near anything. So you have to fly from home, fly across the world, drop your payload, and then fly back home without stopping. But that's pretty hard, right? But an ICBM does that without a human pilot. All you do is you press a button, and the missile shoots, goes into orbit, goes to the side of the world it needs to, comes back into the atmosphere, and then drops its nuke wherever you need to. So the nuclear bomber idea fell through, and he couldn't use it for that. So eventually, the president, Richard Nixon, the corrupt president Richard Nixon, fired Alvin Weinberg so that he was no longer director of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and the thing fell, and it was mothballed. The technology was mothballed, and it sat in a filing cabinet at Oak Ridge National Laboratories for 20 years. It just sat there molding away in a file cabinet. One day, a bunch of Chinese scientists come by. And they're like, "Hey, Americans, we hear you have, thank you for showing us this tour of your facilities and stuff. But we heard you had this nuclear reactor design called the molten salt reactor. We'd really, really like to see that design." And the Americans are like, "Well, sure, okay, sure. I can show you these, our old thing." So here, come over here, B, so I can well, here, I'm gonna have to go sleep, and then I need more bees here. There's all these beehives and no bees. It kind of freaks me out. So they're like, "Sure, guy," and then so the Americans took the Chinese to the oh, here's two bees. I can breed them both. There's 3 bees. There's 4 bees now. Ha ha ha. Okay. So the guys at Oak Ridge National Laboratories gave all the information about the molten salt reactor to the Chinese. And the Chinese took it home, studied it, and saw what were the problems. And they said, "Hey, these problems that you guys had back in the 60s, well, it's the 2010s now. We've made a huge advancements in material sciences. The things you couldn't do back in the 60s, we can do now in the 2010s. So China's like, we're going to build this thing. And that's what they did. That's what they're doing. In the desert, way deep inside China, on the northeastern side of China. There's no water there. It's a big fat desert, the Gobi Desert. I think it's the Gobi Desert. I don't know. I could be wrong. But it's a huge desert up there. No water, no water. And traditional light water reactors need water because they use water as a coolant, even though it's dumb. But that's what they do. The molten salt reactor does not need water for coolant. It uses molten salt for coolant. So it would be perfect. That type of reactor is perfect for the desert where there is no water. So the Chinese took this information from the United States and brought it back to China. And they're trying to make the molten salt reactor. They built a prototype right now, a 2 megawatt prototype. They're going to run for a couple of years and then take notes and stuff and see what the problems are and fix the problems. Then they want to scale it up. And eventually they want to make they want to go commercial. They want to have commercial reactors by 2030. So what does that mean when you can sell nuclear reactors that don't melt down, don't blow up, don't make nuclear bombs? What happens when you can get your energy from this machine instead of oil? Well, you stop using oil because oil sucks. You start using these nuclear reactors. You buy them from China. And you stop buying it from the United States. You stop buying oil from the Americans. You stop buying oil from the Saudi Arabia, from the Arabs. You stop buying oil from the Russians. And you start buying nuclear reactors from China. So suddenly, the whole world is going to say, fuck these guys who like make me like pay this outrageous amount of money for their hydrocarbon to power my society, and then it releases all this pollution. Fuck those guys. Instead, I'm going to buy this Chinese reactor developed from the American scientists to completely get rid of my dependence on oil. I will no longer be dependent on oil anymore. Instead, I'll be generating all my electricity from nuclear power. So what's the other great thing about this nuclear reactor that I'm talking about? I mean, I'm like, rah, rah, rah. It's all great. But what's the other thing? Why is this also another great idea? Because this nuclear reactor, if produces a lot of heat, a lot of heat, enough heat for industrial purposes. Like you need lots of heat to melt steel. You need lots of heat to forge, to do forging metal, to do metal forging. You need insane amounts of energy for metal forging. Like if you want to produce anything, you're going to need insane amounts of energy. Production requires energy. And the energy you get from renewables is not going to be enough. You need absurd amounts of energy. Nuclear power can provide that energy, and it can provide it without generating pollution. Because that's the other thing. The reactor that Alvin Weinberg has made is like 99% more efficient than the light water reactor. What that means is it burns up 99% of the fuel that you put into it. So if you put in 100 pounds of fuel, it will burn up 99 pounds, and you have 1 pound left of nuclear waste. In contrast to the light water reactor, you put in 100 pounds of nuclear fuel, and then you stop, and you have 97 pounds of nuclear waste. Isn't that stupid? Isn't that dumb? I can't get over how stupid that is. You find it, like, because it runs on uranium, and uranium is not fucking super abundant. So you got to get this rare stuff called uranium, and then you can't just use any uranium. You have to use special uranium, a special ion or isotope of uranium. And you can't use chemical processes to find this special uranium. No, the only way you can find the special uranium is by spinning it around in centrifuges. That's the only way you can find it. And when you do that, it turns out that the super rare stuff, uranium, of that super rare stuff, the special uranium that you need for nuclear reactors is even more rare. It's like even 1% of the 1% that you got already. So like it's absurdly rare. It's absurdly rare. It's dumb. I can't get over how harebrained of an idea this is. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So molten salt reactors run on the nuclear waste of... I don't have a shield. I don't need a shield. I killed your leader. You guys kill each other. It's so funny. Ooh. Yeah, not for kids. So the molten salt nuclear reactors burn up existing nuclear waste and hardly make any waste of their own. And they run at super high temperatures. That's important for industrial processes for production, but it's also important for one other thing, which I've been trying to get to, which to me is the most important thing. You can desalinate seawater for free. For free. The waste heat from the processes of generating electricity, just the waste heat, the heat that you don't even need, right? You don't even need this heat. Just get rid of it. That waste heat can be used for other things, such as desalination. I don't know if you guys understand, but potable water is like the the most important resource to humans ever. Like, yeah, we all love oil and stuff, but let me tell you, water, water is the thing. Water is what makes the world go round. Water. It's all about the water. Especially with climate change. It's all about the water. If you can make water for free, that's amazing. It's amazing to make free water. I mean, you could basically revitalize. You could green the desert with free water. Imagine you had free water. Just by making electricity, you get free water. Like, you could irrigate crops like in the desert, and they get tons of sunshine in the desert. It'd be great. So I'm saying all this because, yeah, who's the only one that is going after this? China. Yeah, you have private companies trying to do it, but the problem is they're private companies, so they're necessarily limited. They're limited by the countries they're in and by their size. A government is like a government of a whole group of people. A country is way more powerful than one private company. It should be that way, right? Because a government is supposed to be, well, a democratic government is held in check by the people. Whereas private industry has no check other than the government. So if a private industry becomes more powerful than the government, you have a problem. So yeah, So China is on their way to develop a molten salt nuclear reactor. Last year in the American U.S. Senate in 2022, that there was a Senate bill called Senate Bill 4242, which talks about everything I just talked about, more or less, in the Senate bill. That way you know it's not just me talking BS. There's a Republican senator by the name of Tuberville. He's a piece of shit, by the way. That Senator Tuberville of Alabama, he's literally a piece of shit. Well, not literally, because he'd have to, like, this is not Weird Science, that movie Weird Science. He's not literally a piece of shit. But metaphorically, yeah, because the dude is blocking promotions at the Pentagon. So he's purposely decapitating our military leadership for his own political gains. Piece of shit dick move, right? Not something an American would do. That sounds like something a Confederate would do, to threaten the safety and well-being of the United States for a political fucking deal. That's bullshit, right? That's beyond the power and scope of his position. He needs to get back in his lane and shut the fuck up. But besides that point, right? Besides Tuberville needs to shut up about the military promotions and let them promote their people. Besides that, he did something that I actually agree with. It's probably the only thing I agree with. Tuberville introduced the bill, Senate Bill 4242. And in this bill, he talks about the molten salt nuclear reactor. Exactly the thing I'm telling you right now. That way you know I'm not full of shit. I'm actually talking about something real. I'm actually, like, I don't bullshit you guys. I don't bullshit. It's true. If you look that up, that's something that's actually going on. That's something the United States could do right now. If Democrats and Republicans would work together on getting that done. If Americans could make a molten salt nuclear reactor before the Chinese do, then it would severely reduce the benefit that China would get from having a molten salt reactor for sale. If you can buy a Chinese molten salt reactor or an American molten salt reactor, what are you going to pick? Furthermore, remember that the reason why Russia is able to do what it's doing is because Europe gave them a lot of money for many years to buy their oil for energy. China is going to try to do the same thing with its molten salt nuclear reactors. Remember, they want to go commercial by 2030, and they're offering a way to become energy independent from oil, from all the oil countries, which includes the United States. That's, of course we want people to be energy independent. Of course, we want everyone to be free and independent, right? We don't want them to be dependent on China, because that's what would happen if Chinese sold molten salt reactors first. The countries that bought Chinese molten salt reactors would need Chinese expertise and Chinese parts in order to ensure that their molten salt reactor is going to function. So that means they must maintain relations with China and do whatever China tells them. And we already know that China is not necessarily the nicest trading partner, the nicest partner you want to deal with. Their values don't necessarily align with the values of the West. How about that? I mean, maybe the Chinese people do, but not the Chinese government. So, rather than allowing China to present an alternative energy in the market to oil, it would behoove the Americans to use their own freaking technology and expertise and all the stuff they learned ahead of time to create a molten salt reactor and sell it to other countries to wean the people off of oil before China does. I know it's difficult for Americans to do that because oil is where they derive their power. So it's paradoxical that Americans would invent a technology that destroys their own power source. If Americans get their power from oil, why would Americans create a machine that makes oil useless? Well, for many reasons, right? Because oil is wrecking the planet, and because another country, China, is making that machine already. They're already making a machine to make our oil useless. China's doing it. Why wait until China makes their machine and then makes our oil useless before we do anything about it? Why not do something right now? I have it. I thought I pulled it up somewhere. I saved it somewhere. Anyways. There it is. I'm looking at it. I did save it. Let me look for more bees. All right, in the meantime, Senate Bill 4242. The United States has significant domestic reserves of thorium in accessible high-grade deposits, which can provide thousands of years of clean energy if used efficiently in a liquid fluoride reactor initially started with uranium-233. Recently, as of the date of this enactment of this act, the Department of Energy has chosen to fund a series of advanced reactors that are all dependent on initial inventories and regular resupplies of high-assay, low-enriched uranium. There's no domestic source of high-assay, low-enriched uranium fuel, and there's no available estimates as to how long the development of domestic supply of that fuel would take or how expensive such development would be. The only viable source of high-assay, low-enriched uranium fuel is through continuous import from sources in the Russian Federation. The political situation with the Russian Federation as of the date of this enactment of this act is sufficiently uncertain that it would be unwise for the United States-funded advanced reactor development to rely on high-assay, low-enriched uranium, since the Russian Federation would be the primary source and can be expected to undercut any future United States production, resulting in a dependency on high-assay, low-enriched uranium from the Russian Federation. Why would we do that to ourselves? Without a closed fuel cycle, the United States has abandoned the development of the geological repository at Yucca Mountain and is seeking a consenting community to allow interim storage of spent nuclear fuel. But valid concerns persist that an interim storage facility will become a permanent storage facility. That's why Nevadans fought so hard against Yucca Mountain, because all the Republicans wanted to dump a bunch of nuclear waste there just for a short time, just temporary. But everybody knows that once you put a nuclear waste in a spot, temporary will become permanent. We all knew it. Everybody knew it. Republicans said, we don't care, we'll get money from the government, from the feds. But everyone else is like, yo, this is like 90 miles from Vegas. This is like a dumb idea. And this area is geologically active. This is a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea to put this here. Okay. Without a closed fuel cycle, high-assay, low-enriched uranium fuel reactors inevitably will produce long-lived wastes that presently have no disposition pathway. That's right. Current nuclear practices are terrible, dude. We're making a bunch of nuclear waste, a lot of it, and we don't have a place to put it. A ton of nuclear waste, no place to put it. That's the problem. The United States possesses enough uranium-233 to support further research and development, as well as fuel the startup of several thorium reactors. Thorium reactors do not require additional fuel or high-assay, low-enriched uranium from the Russian Federation. Molten salt reactors run on nuclear waste, not on the shit we get from Russia. Continuing the irreversible destruction of uranium-233 precludes privately funded development of the thorium fuel cycle, which would have long-term national and economic security implications. Oh, I didn't save it. So it's a real bill, is what I'm telling you. It's a real bill. I'm not making it up. It's a real bill. Senate Bill 4242. It would behoove us to get to the molten salt reactor before China does. I mean, I know everyone's like rah rah rah, but fusion is way too far away. We're still way too far away from fusion to do molten salt, to hope for that one before. We need something in between, and that's the molten salt reactor. We've already made it, dudes. Like there's a video called Lifter, LFTR. LFTR in 5 minutes. You can't even see it because I'm in the way. But that's the thing you should check out. Here, let me make me invisible. Lifter in 5 minutes. Lifter in 5 minutes. Check out that video. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not conspiracy theory at all. It's gonna be made by China. And that's the problem. Is that they got there before we did, and we made it first. We invented it first. Yeah, dudes, look up the nuclear powered bomber. That's a real thing too. Alvin Weinberg. Everything like that's the difference between me and other people. I can give you specifics. I can be specific about things. And if I don't know, we can look it up. That's why you know I'm not bullshitting. So energy underpins everything. Climate change is the media coming to destroy us. But we're distracted right now by a bunch of things that kind of came all at once. I remember thinking it's like all the bad. It's like in the video game when you're toward the end and you have to beat every boss that you've beaten before, except in a row. Instead of what, like at the end of the level, now they're all like it's in a row. And we got the Nazis, we got the Confederates, we got the Russians, we got the Chinese communists, like all the bad. We got the white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, all the bad guys, all came back at the same time for this part. So you know we're toward the end of the video game, right? Because of this challenge. Because after we defeat all these bad guys, after we defeat doesn't necessarily mean violently, right? But overcome the Chinese communists, the Russians, the oil oligarchs, well, not even, yeah, the white supremacists, the Confederates, after we overcome all of the bad guys, the Nazis, after we overcome all those bad guys, then we have to face climate change, the real bad guy, the real boss, the real end boss. So yeah, like it's a big deal to keep an eye on the Nazis, the Klan, the white supremacists, the insurrectionists, the Chinese communists, the Russian mobsters. Yeah, it's important to keep an eye on them. The Saudi Arabia religious extremists, the Arab religious extremists, all those crazy extremists. Yeah, we got to keep an eye on them. But remember, those guys are mini bosses to the real boss, the real end boss, which is climate change. And molten salt nuclear reactors are the weapon we need, or the shield we need to defend against the attack of the boss, of the end boss. With molten salt nuclear reactors, we can generate carbon-free electricity. We can use up all the existing nuclear waste we have. We can basically get rid of nuclear bombs because you can throw them into the into the reactors. Since you can't make nuclear bombs out of it, you can spread the technology around everywhere, or you can give everyone a free nuclear reactor. The fuel is thorium. Even if we run out of nuclear waste, the other fuel you can use is called thorium, and that stuff is super abundant. It's all over the place. It's not just concentrated in one area. It's literally everywhere. And if you have to, you can boil it out of seawater. If you have to. So molten salt nuclear reactors are literally the weapon, the magic shield that we need for everything. Oh yeah, you can make water out of it. If you can make water out of it, that means we don't have to pull water from the rivers anymore and dam up the rivers. That will allow salmon to spawn again and for natural river flows to happen instead of damming up the rivers and taking all the water out for irrigation for crops. No, dudes, we can literally make our own water from the ocean and then pipe it around. Pipes are inefficient. That's why they have to be ginormous. They have to be ginormous underground pipes because they're really inefficient. Like it's okay to pipe around oil because it's pretty dense, energy dense. Water, you need a lot of water, so you need ginormous pipes to move that around. Which means we're probably going to need ginormous molten salt reactors out in the middle of the ocean to just continuously create water, clean water. Man, I can imagine amazing things happening if we just stop killing each other and fighting ourselves. If we just stopped, imagine we okay, look at that. Huh. Imagine we invented molten salt nuclear reactors in the United States. Imagine I don't know, the government. Okay, imagine Democrats. No. Don't say Democrats, dude, because who put up Senate Bill 4242 in 2002? Who did that? A Republican. A Republican did that, not a Democrat. A Republican did that. So I don't want to make it party specific. But imagine if Americans invented did a Manhattan Project and invented molten salt nuclear reactors, a safe way of generating electricity that requires little to no maintenance, and the fuel was basically free. So you could set it and forget it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and then you just drop them off all over the place. Well, instantly, if Americans invented this, oil would become useless. Oil would become meaningless. Because you can generate all your if you needed liquid fuel or portable fuel, you can generate it through with hydrogen. Or if you didn't want to use hydrogen, there's a bunch of other fuels you could you can synthesize. I've heard of dimethyl ether. Dimethyl ether as a fuel that you can synthesize and make it liquid. If you need liquid fuel for combustion engines, we can literally make it with dimethyl ether. Oh shit, the raid. I forgot the raid. Damn it, dude. You know what? Here. Here's my old world with no raid in it. I'll deal with the raid later. Yeah, we can literally make liquid fuel with dimethyl ether if you have enough energy. And where do you get the energy from? We get it from molten salt nuclear reactors. So carbon free. You're not burning oil for the energy. You're making it with nuclear power. So if you're making it with nuclear power, then yeah, it doesn't matter how much energy it takes to make dimethyl ether. You have that energy. You just use it. And then you can ship the dimethyl ether to wherever it goes. We already have that kind of infrastructure in place to move liquid fuels. Like, that's easy. That's not a problem. The problem is generating the electricity, and the way you generate electricity is with molten salt nuclear reactors. You want to see something really trippy? Do a barrel roll. All right, check this out. All right, here we go. Flight sim Minecraft. I need additional controls in order to like do a U, like the flip upside down. But yeah, Flight Sim Minecraft. Ah! Do I have to like? Oh, there we go. I can flip upside down, sort of. I like it over the ocean because if I crash, it's not so bad. It's hard to land like this. Like, how do you land? See what I mean? Like, yeah, the landing is the hardest part. Like, I don't have a runway. Oh! All right, enough of that. So yeah. Energy is key. Energy is key. And we can do it. Imagine if we had our own energy. We can save the environment, guys, easily. Toyota said they've invented a new battery that's like 50% better than the battery we have now. And it can charge in 10 minutes. That's pretty cool. If we can get our battery technology better than what we have now, we can use solar power and then save it for nighttime. Right now we can generate power with solar, but we can't save it very well. So we make more energy than we can use in the daytime, and then we don't have enough energy at night when we can't make enough. With good battery technology, we can overcome that problem. So if Toyota says they fixed it, well, there's a big ass company that has the capacity to like make it come to market. Not only can they do it, but they can make it come to market. And I already have a Prius, so so I know they can do stuff. Ah! Crash landing every time, man. It's hard. I don't know. Okay, so what else has been going on? Supreme Court's totally corrupt due to the Republicans on the Supreme Court. The way to fix that is by winning a trifecta in the next election for Democrats, and then eliminating the filibuster on the first day, then expanding the size of the Supreme Court to at least 13, at least. Then, if they can do it, you put in a term limits for the Supreme Court. That way, every new president gets to nominate new Supreme Court justices to keep the justices fresh. Republicans won't do it because remember, they're the ones who made it set up this way. Why would they do that? They don't want to. They like the rulings they're getting. But we know they're corrupt. We know that they're corrupt. They're bad judges. We can trace the corruption. So it's not just me talking bullshit. It actually happened. We can trace the camping trips. We can see how Harlan Crow is literally paying the mortgage for Clarence Thomas's mom on his house. We can literally see the money that Harlan Crow spent to renovate his mom's house. We can literally see the money that Sammy Alito spent to or got as a quote gift. We can see the we have pictures from his exclusive fishing trip in Alaska with other billionaires who get to spend time with a Supreme Court justice before he makes a ruling on a case pertinent to them. So we can see that these judges are corrupt. It's not just me bullshitting. It's not just me like making shit up. I can be specific about it. Oh, okay. Sort of soft landing. So yeah, we need to overcome the Supreme Court if we want to get anything done in like the Supreme Court is like a mini boss. Like we can't even get to the world bosses until we take care of our mini bosses here in the United States. And the mini bosses in the United States are white supremacists, the Confederacy. And they've manifested themselves into the Republican Party. Kinda. I mean, that's why Tuberville is blocking the military promotions for the U.S. military. Because even though he has a good idea, which in the molten salt reactors, Tuberville is still a white supremacist at heart. And he serves white supremacy. He serves the Confederacy and not the United States. Like, why is he so into the molten salt nuclear reactor? Because the guy who promotes it is named Kurt Sorensen, and he's based in Alabama. This would all take place in Alabama, and Tuberville represents Alabama. That's why Tuberville wants to do this molten salt nuclear reactor. Not because it's good for the United States, but because it's good for Alabama, and And really, it's good for the white supremacists in Alabama. That's why. That's the reason why. That's the only reason why. Not because it's good for the environment. Not because, maybe because it's against China too, and he's, you know, kind of racist. But more generally, it's because it benefits white supremacists. That's why he's doing it. Not because it's in good faith. So we need to beat our mini bosses here in the United States in order to start fighting world bosses like climate change. And we can do it, right? We have the coming election is like a great chance for it, because all of the Republican candidates are terrible. They have a traitor in the form of Donald Trump. They have like a Nazi in the form of Ron DeSantis. You have like a wet towel in the form of Mike Pence. You have RFK Jr. who's like another Nazi. Like, all the Republicans love RFK Jr. It's weird. It's like they'll vote for him before more than Democrats will, but I don't know. So, and Democrats already won a trifecta, already won the House this term. The only reason why Democrats do not control the House this term is because the Supreme Court let Alabama and Louisiana use racist maps in their election. And by using racist maps, that let the Republicans win the seats there. After the election was over and the Republicans took their seats and won control of the House, then the Supreme Court said, "Oh, those maps are racist and you can't use them in the next election." But they let them use it for this election, so they would win the House. You see what I mean? So we should already have a trifecta. So of course, if we already have one this time, it should be totally reasonable to assume that the Democrats could pull off another trifecta in the 2024 election. They have one now. They just lost it because Republicans cheated. But that's the thing. Shine lights on the fact that they cheated. You have to shine a light on it. You have to let people know that the Republican Party is a party of insurrection and anti-democratic. They're not on board with the democracy project. They're not on board with democracy. They will tell you as much. They would tell you as much. They always insist that, oh, we're a republic, not a democracy. You see what I mean? They tell you they're against democracy. Republicans will tell you they're against democracy. So you can't trust them. You can't trust them. It's like dealing with Putin. You can't trust Putin either. Putin's broken every single agreement. Why? Because none of those, his only standard is power. That's his only standard. So he will break an agreement as soon as he feels it will give him power. Same thing with Republicans. You can't trust them. I mean, look what happened with Mitch McConnell on the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell denied Obama his seat that should have been his for 300 days. He denied Obama, and then what was the excuse that Donald Trump had said? Oh, because it's too close to an election. 300 days is too close to an election for a president to nominate a Supreme Court justice. And then what happened? Right, elections were already underway in 2020. Elections were already underway in 2020, and Mitch McConnell went ahead and seated a Supreme Court justice for Donald Trump. So his word is absolutely meaningless. Republicans, you can't trust anything they say. They will say whatever they need to in order to gain power. You can't fucking trust them. Same thing with Vladimir Putin. He will say whatever he needs to say in order to gain power. He has no actual honor no actual honor. He's not an honorable person. Republicans are not honorable people. They may feel that they have honor, but not really. because words matter, and for them, words are just for power. Remember, Donald Trump agreed and signed a surrender to the Taliban like months before he was about to lose the election. So he signed an agreement to, or was it before or after? I don't remember if he agreed. But anyways, he signed a surrender to surrender to the Taliban. But Donald Trump never intended to leave office, and he never intended to leave Afghanistan. Because nothing was done to withdraw our people from Afghanistan. Donald Trump had not given them the order to leave. He signed a surrender with the government, but he never ordered our people to leave. So he was going to abandon our people in Afghanistan with no honor. Why? Because Republicans have no honor. He never intended on leaving office. He was going to keep the presidency and leave them there after he signed the agreement to withdraw. Republicans have no honor. I'm telling you. If you don't like it, don't be a Republican. See, being a Republican is different than being black. You don't have a choice about being black. You're black no matter what. You're a black, like, you can't hide the fact that you're black. Like, Republican, you choose to be Republican. And you can choose to not be a Republican. It's all your choice. It's up to you. You have that freedom. You don't have a freedom. It's the same thing with gay people. You know, it's not a choice. People don't choose to be gay or not to be gay. It's what they are. Like, if you think it's so easy to choose to choose your sexuality, then please, by all means, demonstrate for me how a straight person would just change their sexuality. Just do it for a month, man. Just do it for a month to show all the straight people how easy it is to just choose your sexuality. Choose to be gay for a month. Go ahead. Show us how it's done. Oh, you can't? You can't do it? Why? Why? Because that's not how you are? Right? Why would you make a law to criminalize you just for the way you are? Because that's what's been happening. That's what's been happening. It's not a choice. It's not a choice. It's who you are, literally. You can't change it. So why would you make it a crime why would you make it a crime to what's it called? To be who you are naturally. That's like saying God made a mistake and we have to fix the mistake that God made. Oh, what fat hubris is that? That's incredible hubris to say that. Oh, God made a mistake and it's up to humans to fix what God messed up. Really? I mean, okay, I see a bunch of fingers pointing at me right now. I see them all. Did God not fuck up when God made me? Right? I was born with a cleft palate. I was born with a deformed face. Like a not normal face. An abnormal face. I was born with a literal hole in my mouth to my, from the roof of my mouth to my nose. Did God not fuck up when he made me? Or he, she, they, it, them? Did God not fuck up? Right? Is it a mistake to fix for humans to fix what God made? Like, and I will say, I don't know. I mean, let's think about it. Is it a mistake, or is it a test? Is it a test? They're like, all right, humans, you think you're so great. What about this? I'm gonna make you a human who's regular in all other aspects. The brain is regular, everything else is regular, but they're gonna look and talk funny. The way they communicate with you is gonna be weird, and they're gonna not look like you. How are you gonna handle this? Their inside is the same, but their outside is different. How are you gonna handle this, humans? It's almost like a test. How does a society handle a situation like that? So, is it a mistake? I don't know. Did God mess up? I don't know. But I know that the medical interventions and the speech therapy that I've had, all of that has helped me lead a better life. So that the interventions that humans did were not to punish me for being how God made me, but to uplift me, but to lift me up. Humans lifted me up. And I think, well, that's passing the test. That's passing the test. You saw something, a human, that was different from you, and you lifted that human up. That's passing the test. That's cool. All right, but what about gay people? There's another human that inside they're the same, right? Everything's the same. The only part that's different is the person, the kind of person that they're attracted to. The gender. The gender and sex. That's the only difference. Now, what are you gonna do with these people? They look the same, they talk the same, they act the same. They're the same. They're the same. There's like no difference. Unlike other people where there's a visual difference that you can, or the communication is different. These people are totally invisible unless they make themselves known. Or they can be totally invisible unless they make themselves known. How are you going to handle these people? Well, in Ron DeSantis' society, they passed a bill to criminalize these people, to make them say that, oh, God made you this way, then you will be punished, and we will make sure that you receive punishment for the way God made you. I think that's not passing the test. I think that's failing the test. Oh man, I can't not fly. Stop flying. Okay, there. So yeah, how you react to the things that are given to you, I think, is part of the test a society undergoes. Oh, I see the difference. 1 and 3. Man, I have all these slides. I don't even look at them. I don't even know what I'm doing. Alright, so here's a white supremacist. This white supremacist mass shooter was inspired by great replacement rhetoric, still promoted on Fox News and still embraced by the entire Republican Party. Breaking. El Paso Walmart gunman formally sentenced to 90 life sentences for the racist 2019 massacre that killed 23 people and injured nearly 24 others. So this dude right here is a neo-Nazi. His intent was to start a race war because he had the delusion, the great replacement conspiracy theory, that he believes minorities are going to come and replace all the white people. And due to the white people what white racist society did to minorities. So it's a delusion. It's a delusion. It's not real, but it's pumped up by white supremacists in order to generate fear and anxiety in vulnerable white people. And it gets them hopped up to the point where they do crazy shit like engage in mass murders. And why can they engage in mass murders? Why can they do that? Because they have access to firearms. Why do they have access to firearms? Because the United States is unable to effectively take care of its firearm problem. Why can't it effectively take care of its firearm problem? All these other countries did. Because there's a group of people in the United States, a political group within the United States that is opposed to any kind of reform that would address this problem. Who is this group of people that's opposed to any kind of reform? In general, it's the Republican Party. Why would they be opposed to doing anything to take care of this problem that only happens in the United States? Because fundamentally, the Republican Party is a party of white supremacy, and gun violence serves white supremacy. Does that answer all your questions? How much deeper can you go? How do you know that the Republicans are a white supremacist party? Because they're full of white supremacists who parrot the Great Replacement theory, who literally tried to overthrow an election in 2020, a democratic election in favor of white supremacy. Who literally align with other white supremacist groups like Nazis and Ku Klux Klan. I mean, there's all sorts of proof that can show that the Republican Party is a party of white supremacy. All sorts of proof. That's not a question. Do you have any other questions at all? Like what can we do about it? You can vote for, first of all, that's like the minimum. The minimum is to vote. I know that there's a great sense of cynicism about the government in general, and that's the thing. It's in general. It's in general. I tried to pin it down to be more specific, and I couldn't. The people couldn't do it. Every time I tried to pin them down to something, they morphed over to something else. That was just another topic. It was just another topic, right? It was just another like weird conspiracy thing. So I tried to pin that one down, and when I tried to pin it down, it morphed over to something else. That everything's corrupt and you can't do anything about it. What does that sound like? What does that sound? That sounds like demoralization. There was nothing specific I could ever get to that would pin it down. Never. I had to, but that general sense of malaise created a sense of apathy within the American, and they no longer believed in democracy, no longer believed in the institutions around them, no longer believed in doing anything, and thought everything was shit, and thought that the American project had failed. Oh my God! Wow! That's exactly demoralization, right? Because that kind of guy that kind of person would be unable to defend themselves, because to them they're unable to distinguish between truth. For them, the government was in quotes. It was the thing, right? It wasn't. They couldn't define it. The whole thing was corrupt, and it was homogeneous. If one part was corrupt, it meant everything was corrupt. The whole thing was exactly the same as one part. So I'm sitting there trying to to teach this person how to use their third eye to create greater resolution, to see distinctions, because the government is not a homogeneous group. It's not the same throughout. It's filled with really, really good people. How do I know? Because our country is good, man. We have a good country. Yeah, we have problems. No joke, right? But a lot of people are in it to do good. They're trying to help people out. They're in it with good intentions. They don't have bad faith. They have good faith. They're honestly trying to help people out. A lot of governments that way. But I know that it feels like there's dysfunction, because government moves slowly by nature, and because we have a white supremacist movement inside the United States that promotes that kind of thinking, that promotes that kind of apathy, that cynicism, and that's the Republican Party. The Republican Party wants you to give up on democracy. They want you to say that government's totally corrupt, so that you say, well, then our only hope is private businesses. Our only hope is Elon Musk. Our only hope is Jeff Bezos, which is bullshit because we know those guys are idiots. If we just look at Elon Musk, he's an idiot. Like, so yeah, the idea that, because remember, government, democratic government, is the collective ideal of all of us. It should be our dream, right? We should be dreaming of a more perfect union. We should be dreaming of a time when freedom is maximized, and when people have, all the people have everything they need, when the bountiful plentifulness of our country, when our productive capacity is used to promote the general welfare. So we have no homeless people, we have great infrastructure that's good for the environment. We become excellent stewards of our environment. Man, I hear these foolish Americans who go to Yellowstone and go try to touch the hot springs. Like, you foolish Americans, you should know better. You're Americans. That's part of, like, Yellowstone, the natural environment is part of your heritage. You got to learn how to take care of it. And by walking all over the crap in Yellowstone, you're not being good stewards of it. Like, when I was growing up, I remember watching Mutual of Omaha, their series on African wildlife. Man, that was great. And then I would see all these other videos, I think they're from Disney, about the American wilderness and how great it was. And like, I don't know, it makes you want to preserve it and make sure that it doesn't become harmed by idiots who go out there and don't know what they're in, and then they just dump a bunch of shit out there. Like, did you see what happened during July 4th? July 4th, or freedom. How do we use our freedom? We fucking pollute, like, wonderful areas, wonderful nature areas. We go there and pollute it with trash and garbage. Oh my God, that's like a condemnation of freedom. Like, it's almost like we're too stupid in order to use our freedom. Like, why would we use our freedom to pollute our natural environment in celebration of our freedom? Like, that's like the craziest thing ever. I mean, I lit fireworks too, but not like that. Ooh. Whoa. Yeah, we gotta be smarter about stuff. Okay, what else do I got here? Yeah, look at the billionaires, dude. Look at the billionaires. These guys are not gonna save us. These guys are not gonna save the world. They're idiots. They're fucking stupid. Who do we got here? We got Mohammed bin Salman. We got Elon Musk, and we got the boy wonder, who's like older than I am, who's about the same age as me. Jared Kushner. So he's a criminal, right? He sold a bunch of U.S. secrets to this guy in order for money for his family. And so he shouldn't even have security clearance. He was denied security clearance, Jared Kushner. But Donald Trump overrode all of our security stuff to give Jared Kushner access. And then Jared Kushner stole information and sold it to the Saudis. And the Saudis used it to murder the truth teller, Jamal Khashoggi. These guys are bad guys. They're all bad guys. They're all acting in ways that secure their power and take power away from you and me. These actions don't benefit the good of the people. They benefit billionaires like themselves. they're not going to save us, guys. Or everyone. They're not going to save us. What's going to save us is us. Compare some investigations. The Durham investigation had 6 counts. It cost $9 million. And that's $1.5 million per count. It got 0 convictions. And the asset forfeitures that they received was $0. So it cost the American taxpayer $9 million for Durham. It cost us $9 million for the Durham investigation. Let's compare it to Smith, Jack Smith. He's got 37 counts so far. We're not done yet. That's about $9 million per count. Or it costs about $9 million so far. That's about $243,000 per count. So more efficient, right? Convictions are pending. Asset forfeiture pending. If Donald Trump is found guilty, he's going to lose a bunch of money. And it's going to go to reimbursing the taxpayer. What does it look like when the taxpayer gets reimbursed? Well, look at the Mueller investigation. There were 199 counts in the Mueller investigation. It cost $32 million. That's $160,000 per count. Even more efficient, the most efficient. There were 12 convictions. And he recovered $50 million in asset forfeiture. So it cost us $32 million, but we got back $50 million. So the taxpayer recovered like $18 million. Mueller recovered $18 million. Durham cost us $9 million and got 0 convictions. Nobody was convicted. In other words, Durham heard a bunch of conspiracy theories, spent $9 million trying to prove them, and got bupkis. Got nothing for it. Mueller followed the evidence, got 12 convictions, and had 199 counts, and recovered $18 million for the American taxpayer. We made money on the Mueller investigation, and we got bad guys put away. 199 counts. One of these counts, 12 of these counts are Russian military officers. They're indicted for attacking the United States. We got them. We have them. We know who they are. The Russian military officers. One of these guys is named something Prigozhin. His last name is Prigozhin. You know Prigozhin as the leader of the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group was that mercenary group that did the mutiny in Russia. That's the Wagner Group. You know that guy? The leader of that guy is indicted by Robert Mueller. If that guy, that Prigozhin guy, were ever to get into Western jurisdiction, like if he were to go to like a European country, a Western European country, the police would arrest him. And they would extradite him to the United States to serve trial. Why? Why would the United States want to get this mercenary leader Russian dude on trial? Because, read the Mueller report, that guy, Prigozhin, created the Internet Research Agency. Internet Research Agency. Internet Research Agency. What? Oh, fuck. Internet Research Agency. It's there, right? It's there. Yeah, I'm gonna move. Internet Research Agency. Prigozhin made the Internet Research Agency. That agency was in St. Petersburg, Russia, and what it did is it was like a cyber operations center. What happened is they would get information from their moles inside of the United States. And they would use that information that they got from their moles inside the United States to target their operations. Now, what were their operations? they would get English-speaking foreign, like Russians, to go to Facebook and Twitter and these other forums, right? Any place where Americans would get together and talk. They like online video games. They were in World of Warcraft, man. I swear to God, they were in World of Warcraft doing this shit. I remember it happening. Now, the Russians didn't really care for any one policy or the other, but they generally supported Donald Trump more than anyone else. They wanted Donald Trump to win. The Russians wanted Donald Trump to win. So they would try to cause fights on the internet between Americans. And they would try to demoralize Americans by making them believe that their government was corrupt and that their vote didn't matter and that the whole thing was just a big conspiracy thing that they could never ever understand or figure out. Truth was unknowable and that they should just give up. So they tried to demoralize as many Americans as they could. And whenever they got good information, they would act upon it. One time they got good information was when the Republicans, the Trump campaign had used all the Republicans from the whole country to gather all this really, really, really good detailed polling information to make a map of the entire United States of like where the polling trends are. Really, really important granular information. It's like showing like a person the best places to bomb. If you want to drop a bomb, you don't just like pick a random spot and drop a bomb and hope it goes someplace good. You want to know the best place to put the bomb. You don't want to blow up an empty field. You want to blow up like their information center or their oil depot or their power structure. You want to blow up something that would stop them from doing whatever their goal is. So the Republicans got this really, really, really good detailed polling information of the United States, and then Paul Manafort, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, got a hold of this, and he had contacts with a guy named Konstantin Klimnik. Konstantin Klimnik is an agent for Russia. So he works for the Russian government, Konstantin Klimnik. So Paul Manafort took this map of the United States and gave it to Konstantin Klimnik, who then went back to Russia and gave it to the Russians. They gave it to the guy Prozinski, the leader of the Wagner Group, and he used his internet research agency based in St. Petersburg to attack key places in the United States. He focused all the trolling efforts, all the misinformation, all the demoralization on key sectors, key places in the United States to either depress the voting, increase the voting, or cause fighting, or confuse people as to where is the voting, when is the voting, to do anything to fuck up stuff. They had the map. They had the map. Paul Manafort got them the map. So yeah, they could do this amazing stuff. That's how they were able to overthrow the election of 2016. Because the Republicans gave this information to Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort gave this information to the Russians. The Russians used the Wagner Group to do cyber psyops against Americans over their wide open comms. Facebook is wide open comms. Anybody could drop in there and drop in whatever they want. Anyone could read the comms on Facebook. It's wide open. So Americans being like naive, I guess, right? They're naive because the internet's a brand new technology, right? This is a brand new frontier for them. So naive Americans are going on Facebook and leaving their brains wide open to all this stuff that some of it's good, right? David Bowie, when he foresaw the internet, he saw nothing but good information flowing between good-hearted people. He did not conceive of the fact that there could be bad actors who pour shit into the information stream. He couldn't even conceive of it. So we have these Americans, coming onto the internet with their brains wide open to whatever's out there. And we have bad actors going around who know better, and they're pouring in poison into the minds of these Americans. so to confuse them and demoralize them. And it works really, really good. They've been doing this for like years. Look what happened to the Russian people. Here I am, right? I'm saying, go Russian people, rise up against your oligarchy and take back control of Russia and be free from the tyrants and the oligarchs. Make democracy in your own country. I say that, but I'm kind of naive myself, because I talk to people who are better Russian scholars than me, and they say, dude, you're crazy. To me, they say, you're crazy. There is no sense of democracy in Russia. There are no institutions for democracy in Russia. The people in Russia don't want democracy. They're not yearning for democracy. They don't even conceive of democracy. They don't even know what it is. They don't even care about it. So there's no way that they're going to rise up to implement something they don't even know. All they know is strongman. All they've ever known is ruler, is authoritarian ruler. Either a czar, a criminal, or the government, Stalin. That's all they've ever known is oppression. And they can't even conceive of a democracy. So any hope that the Russian people would rise up during the mutiny in order to implement democracy is misplaced, because they're not. And it's true. I looked at Russia, and the people in Russia during the mutiny were cheering the mutiner, the Prigozhin, the Wagner group, who was going to overthrow the Russian government, overthrow Putin. Like, the people didn't care about, like, making a democracy. They just want to make sure they're on the right side of the right strongman. Damn, dude. Damn. There's nothing, like, you can't, yeah. Anyways, they're trying to make Americans into those people. The Russians are trying to turn American people into Russian people who can't conceive of democracy. And they did a pretty good job of it, right? Because there's a lot of Americans walking around going, we're a republic, not a democracy. Like, wow. They confused a lot of Americans. It worked. So, yeah. That guy, the leader of the Wagner group, is one of the guys who's indicted by Robert Mueller. That's how you know the Robert Mueller investigation was a good investigation. That was a good investigation. I mean, he knows who the bad guys are. Does Durham know who the bad guys are? No. Not at all. He knows nothing. Durham knows nothing. Durham is an idiot. He knows nothing. Does Smith know who the bad guys are? I think he does. I think Jack Smith knows who the bad guys are. So just something to keep in mind. America, the United States, can be great if we hold on to the dream of multiracial democracy. Hold on to that dream. That's our dream, guys. That's our dream. Multiracial democracy. But there are forces out there and forces in here that are working to stop that from happening. And I can point them out. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not just me talking blah blah blah. I can be specific. If you have a question, just ask me, and we'll do it. What else do I got here? How long have I been going? 2 hours. Not too long. Oh! So, here's how I know Twitter has been taken over by Nazis. This user, Scarlet Red, has been suspended for violating the Twitter rules, specifically violating our rules against violent speech. I got kicked off for violent speech, and it wasn't violent speech at all. I got kicked off because I said that the United States government should have hung the Confederate traitors 150 years ago. If they would have taken care of it back then, we wouldn't be in this position now. But then, anyways. What was the violent what was the violent, threatened, or glorifying language that got her kicked off? They said, "Are you white?" Why is that hateful? Why is that a hateful? How is that violent, dude? How is that violent? How is that violent? It's not. It's not at all. But this person got kicked off of Twitter for asking that question. Why? Why? You know what? Another thing is that Elon Musk said that the word cis was a slur. But it's not. Why would you say that's a slur? Why would you do that? The only people who think that's a slur are Nazis. The only people who think that question, "Are you white?" is a slur, are Nazis, white supremacists. Why would Nazis and white supremacists think these kind of questions would be slurs? Why? Because they're not hateful. They're not violent. Why would they think that? Let me tell you why. Because these kinds of questions are illuminating. They shine a light. Where, remember, Nazis don't want light shined on them. They want to create a cloud of insinuation that hides the fear and makes you fearful. They want to use insinuation to make a cloud of uncertainty to make you feel fearful. Whereas this is a question that shines light on that uncertainty. It's a neutral question. Are you white? It's not bad or good, it's neutral. And they got kicked off of Twitter for that, and the reason is because they said it was violent speech. So, what must the world be like for a person to consider this question to be a hateful speech? Well, for that person, the world must be colorblind. You must be colorblind. For the Nazi, they would love a world to be colorblind. Because if you can't see color, you can't see race, then you will never question why. You will never figure out why one group of people is oppressed and another group of people is privileged. If you're colorblind, you will never know why. You will never know why. How would you ever know? If you can't see race, how could you ever see it? And if you can't see it, you would never question it. And what's the greatest sin? To question it. That's what this is. She is shining a light on the racial hierarchy. And that is the greatest sin of white supremacy. You can never shine light on the racial hierarchy. You have to be colorblind. You have to not see the race. You have to not see race. Because if you don't see race, then you can blame the person for their position. Oh, black people are presently now in a worse position than their counterparts. Well, if we're colorblind, I can't see that they're black, and instead I'll just blame them as a group for being bad in some way. They're bad and since you're bad, you have to do this to get better because you're bad. You can't see color, right? Colorblind. You can't see their color. You can't see my color. You can't see anyone's color, right? Colorblind. So then you're missing the information you need in order to make a true evaluation of what's going on. If you shine a light on things and you say, hey, these people are black Americans, and you are a white American. And there's things going on other than black people are bad. They're just bad people. No. That suddenly that explanation falls apart. That's bullshit. They're treated differently just because of who they are. And that's systemic. Oh no. Now you're shining a light on the hierarchy, on the system. And that's the worst thing. Because if you do that, then other people will see it and begin to dismantle it. And you don't want to dismantle the system that you spent all this time building. I'm getting some coffee. Right? That's the greatest. That's why it's a sin. That's why you can't do it. That's why they get kicked off of Twitter. You cannot acknowledge the racial hierarchy. If you do, then white supremacists will get very upset. Regular people don't get upset. Only white supremacists. What even? Like, where did that come from? All right, there. Okay, this one. Jobs created by president, average per month. So basically, every president has created jobs, or was president while a job boom was going on. Every president, except for Trump. Trump lost his jobs, but everyone else did pretty good. And Biden, I guess we're in a boom now. Cause like that looks pretty crazy, man. I guess we're booming. Governor Ron DeSantis awards more than $247 million through the broadband infrastructure program. Today, Governor Ron DeSantis awarded more than $247 million through the broadband infrastructure program, connecting more than 59,000 unserved and underserved businesses, homes, farms, and anchor institutions like hospitals and libraries to high-speed internet. Infrastructure deployment through 63 strategic projects in 43 Florida counties ensures that Florida residents have reliable and efficient access to workforce, education, and health monitoring opportunities for generations to come. These awards are in addition to more than $226 million in broadband opportunity grant funding already awarded to 53 counties awards to expand broadband internet access to underserved areas across the state. High-speed broadband internet is important infrastructure for Florida communities and will generate economic development activity and a talented labor force, said Governor Ron DeSantis. Florida is proud to make investments. Wait, let me change that. I gotta fix that. Yeah. Wait a minute. Snip. There's a reason why I have to fix it. There's a reason why I have to fix it. Oh. Not Florida. Florida's not proud. Democrats. Democrats are proud because why did I do that? Why did I just cross that out and write in Democrats and not Florida? Because why is Florida getting this money? Because of the Biden infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. That's why Florida is getting this money. And this was passed by Democrats. Republicans voted against it. They didn't want this infrastructure bill to pass. They didn't want this money to come. They voted against it. So it's the Democrats who are happy to invest in Florida. So Democrats are proud to make investments in broadband infrastructure, internet infrastructure that will benefit all Floridians and make long-term impacts in communities across the country. It wasn't Ron DeSantis, dude. That wasn't Ron DeSantis. This is Biden. Under Biden's leadership, Florida is expanding broadband internet to small and rural areas of the state that will now have new access to critical stuff. The Democrats did that. Biden did that. It wasn't Ron DeSantis. It's funny how Ron DeSantis wants to take the credit for it, but he didn't do that. In fact, his party voted against it. His party voted. His party didn't want this stuff, but Biden and the Democrats forced it on them. Biden and the Democrats forced Ron DeSantis to take this money. I mean, I'm being specific, right? Specific. It's not generalized. I'm being specific. The prime age employment rate is at a 20-year high and approaching all-time highs. So it's all-time high like in 1999, 2000s at the dot-com boom, and then we're getting close to that again. So apparently the economy is booming. Apparently. They need to raise the rate of pay. Deplatforming works. Tucker Carlson is collapsing. he's becoming a nobody. So in other words, the only reason why Nazis get any traction in the United States is because Fox is a big TV station that platforms Nazis, and every fucking night they put out poison into people's brains. That's why. But if you get rid of the poison, people will get better. Look at what happened. Tucker Carlson's a total Nazi, and after he got kicked off of Fox News, he's collapsing. He's just not that important anymore. Deplatforming works. No explosions. To enjoy fireworks, you would have to have lived a different kind of life. Who wrote this? I don't know who wrote this poem. That's a good poem, though. Happy 4th of July. July 9th, 1776. New Yorkers destroy history by toppling a statue of George III. And that's why nobody knows who won the American Revolution. That's for the Confederates. Confederates will say, "Oh, you can't take down my Confederate monument. We'll forget history." Come on, guys. Put all those Confederate statues in a museum where they belong. Climate scientists. July 4th was hottest day ever for global average temperature. Oh, check this out. By John Holman. Mandatory retirement for judges improves the performance of U.S. state Supreme Courts. Science. Mandatory retirement for judges has often been considered as a policy response to an aging judicial workforce. This paper provides empirical evidence on how mandatory retirement influences judge performance using a wave of such reforms in U.S. state Supreme Courts as a natural experiment. We find that introducing mandatory retirement improves court performance as measured by output, which is number of published opinions, and legal influence, number of forward citations to those opinions. While older judges are cited less often than younger judges, the effect of mandatory retirement on performance is much larger than what would be expected from a change in the age distribution. We find some evidence that the additional effect is due to selective attention and that the presence of older judges reduces the performance of younger judges. That's how they work it out, the numbers they use. I don't understand that. I can go, if I took time, I could figure it out. Reminder of Bree Newsome base. OceanGate suspends all explorations and business operations. OceanGate is the company that did the sub that imploded. Reminder that OceanGate received a $450,000 PPP loan from the U.S. government that it didn't have to pay back.
Meanwhile, working class people who got loans through the government to further their education are expected to pay back more than they received. Right? Structural inequality. Why is it that billionaires got to get their loans, free loans from the government, and those loans were forgiven? They didn't have to pay them back. But when poor college students who have to take a loan out because of historic poverty in order to go to college that would benefit the whole country, they are denied by Republicans. They're denied having that same forgiveness. That benefits rich people and hurts poor people. Who are the ones that stopped poor people from getting their loans forgiven the same way rich people have their loans forgiven? Republicans. So it's to look at the government and say the whole government is corrupt and the whole government is bad is like being blind. It's like having really bad vision where all you can see is the shape and that's it. You can't see any colors. You have to improve your vision, your third eye vision, so that you can see more than just a shape, but you can see what's going on inside that shape. And inside that shape, you see one part of the government trying to forgive loans for poor people, and the other part of the government using all their power to make sure that poor people have to pay their loans, and only rich people get their loans forgiven. Because we can look when rich people got their loans forgiven, these Republicans did not stop the Democrats. They worked together to help everyone get their loans forgiven. But when it came to poor people needing their loans forgiven, suddenly Republicans fought against it and denied it. So you can't look at government and say government is bad. You can look in government and say, look, government's got at least two sides to it. At least two sides. At least. There's one side trying to push this policy and the other side trying to stop it. Who do those policies help? Remember, government is a thing. It's not inherently good or bad. It's a thing. Just like a gun is a thing. A gun is not inherently good or bad. It's a thing. It's a tool. It's a tool. Government is a tool like gun is a tool. How do you know if how do you know if the person holding the gun is a good guy or a bad guy? How do you know? How do you know? You look where the bullets go. It's empirical. Empirical evidence. You look where the bullets go. That's how you know if the person's a good guy or a bad guy holding the gun. That's how you know. How do you know if the people holding the government are good people or bad people? You look at where the policies go. Policies are like bullets. You look at policies are like laws. You look at they're like bullets. So you look at where the bullets go to know if the people holding the government are good people or bad people, or if there's two people wrestling for control of the government and it just shoots off bullets, laws in random directions. Like, be able to distinguish, right? You have right now, if your vision's bad, all you see is a blob, and you say, "Oh, bad blob, bad." But as your vision gets better and better, you get closer and closer, and then suddenly the outline disappears. Oh. And you can make out that it's not just a blob, a silhouette, but it's actually two people fighting over control of a gun. That gun is the government. And when the Democrats have control of the gun, and they shoot the bullets, what do the Democrats do? They pass the Infrastructure Reduction Act. They pass the Biden Inflation Reduction Act. They pass the Biden Infrastructure Bill. And they forgive student loans to poor people who need loans to go to college, like me. Okay, that's when the Democrats have control of the gun. But when Republicans have control of the gun, what do? They make poor people pay the most in taxes by changing the tax code, and they give big breaks to billionaires. They reduce environmental regulations. So businesses can pollute more. They make it harder to vote so that people can't vote as much. All you got to do is look at where the bullets go, and you can tell if the person holding the gun is a good guy or a bad guy. So, in this instance, where'd it go? In this instance, the Republicans and Democrats are wrestling for control of the gun, and the Republicans are trying to stop the Democrats for forgiving the loans of poor people, and they're trying to keep the loan forgiveness for the rich people. Slavery went nowhere. The effect of 1800 slavery on income inequality today. Effect explains up to around 10% of the average inequality in Brazil today. So they didn't look at the United States. No. They looked at Brazil. Brazil had slavery. Brazil was a slave state. And they found out that the families who had slaves tend to be a lot wealthier today than the families that were slaves. The families that were slaves are, as a whole, worse off today, 100 years after slavery ended in Brazil. In other words, it didn't go away. The effects of slavery didn't go away. They persisted. The rich people kept getting richer from the benefits they got from slavery, and the poor people got poorer because they were exploited through slavery and never recovered. You have to take affirmative actions to repair that. It doesn't get better by itself. You have to take affirmative action to fix it. If you ignore it, it just gets worse. You see what I mean? It just becomes gangrenous. Slavery went nowhere. The article documents a long-term impact of slavery on inequality at the receiving end. We focus on Brazil, the largest importer of African slaves and the last country to abolish this institution in the Western Hemisphere in 1888. To deal with the endogeneity of slavery placement, we use a spatial regression discontinuity design, RDD, exploiting the Tordesillas Treaty, which established the colonial boundaries between the Portuguese and Spanish empires within Brazil. We find that the number of slaves in 1872 is discontinuously higher on the Portuguese side of the border, consistent with this power's comparative advantage in transatlantic slavery. We then show how this differential slave rate led to a higher modern income inequality of 0.4 points of the Gini index, close to 10% of the average income inequality in the country. In terms of mechanisms, we find a wider racial income gap, as well as important differences in education, employment, and prejudice against blacks in modern times. We rule out the role of colonizer identity and other mechanisms proposed in the historical literature. I don't know if that part's in reference to it. I have to read the whole thing. The colonizer identity, but it was ruled out. So regression discontinuity plots within the municipality distances to the Tordesillas lines as the assignment variable. Sample is restricted to municipalities with distance greater than 73 kilometers and smaller than 1,000 kilometers. Markers represent the local averages of slaves as share of the population. In 1872, or the Gini index of monthly per capita household income in 2010. Averages are calculated using 33 equally wide bins on each side of the cutoff, horizontal axis. Continuous lines are a quadratic fit over the original n-bin data and its 95% confidence interval. Very like it's like science speak. So let's see. So Brazil was divided between the Portuguese side and the Spanish side historically. And the Portuguese side had more slaves than the Spanish side because Portuguese had a better business deal setup, I guess. I don't know. So they were able to transport more people. Then they compared but these two people lived really close together, right? They weren't too far apart. They lived pretty close together. But there was a line which differentiated the slave side from the not slave side. Then that's how it started, right? And then Brazil became a whole country, and then all that divide disappeared, and then slavery was eventually gone. So 150 years later, they plotted people in each area. They plotted how people were doing. And the people on this side, on the slavery side, the Portuguese side, there was a bigger gap between the white people who held the slaves and the black people who were the slaves. There was a huge gap compared to the historically Spanish side where they did not have slavery. They were more equal. They were closer together. There was not a big difference between the white people and the black people so much on the Spanish side as there was on the Portuguese side historically. So this is like empirical evidence that slavery has not gone away. Even though it ended in 1888, the effects are still propagated through time and space to the present day. It's still here today with us in Brazil. It's still there in Brazil. It didn't go anywhere. So, and what's nice about it being Brazil is that it's free of any cultural hang-ups we Americans might have in relation to our slavery, our slave state. We don't even have to talk about the Yankees and the slavers. We can talk about the Brazilians. And look what happened in Brazil. On the slave side of Brazil, the effect of slavery was to extract wealth out of the black people and concentrate it into the white people. And on the non-slavery side, that didn't happen. And it's still going on today. The effects are still there today. You have a permanent underclass of black people who are there because of slavery. And you have a permanent caste of rich elite people who are there because of slavery, who continue to rule over the land, even though slavery ended. Because those effects are historical. They never go away. They never go away. You have to be proactive if you want to change it. You can't just ignore it and like if you were colorblind, if you followed along the idea of color blindness, you would not be able to explain this. You could not see this. You would not see this. All you would see is one group of people poor and another group of people are elites. But you wouldn't be able to see why. Because on the other side, of that line, that difference between the colorblind difference is not, or the actual racial difference is less. But if you're colorblind, you couldn't see it. So you wouldn't be able to explain why this group of people is doing so bad. You need to be able to see color because race is very, very important for the way that historically this place was created. You have to see race. Slavery went nowhere. So that's that line where so the distribution of slaves. So this side had more slaves than this side. I guess. Yeah, and so all this is jungle. Yeah, it won't do anything. You can't really use this, and no one lives there, right? All this is big fat jungle. So the only place they could really look at is like around here. That's like the best. This is like the best place, because on this half of the line, they had slaves, and this half of the line they didn't have slaves, or had fewer slaves. And like right here, it's intense, the difference between there and here. And then when you get over here, it's not so much. The line's so big. Okay. So Mike Pence is running for president. Mike Pence is running for president, and he's going around and he's giving town halls to the voters to pitch himself as president. And here's an example of what happened when he went to one of his town halls. There's a white woman, an older white woman, who is going to scold Mike Pence because Mike Pence did not follow through with the insurrection. She wanted Mike Pence to overthrow the American democracy, and she was angry that Mike Pence didn't do it.
Ma'am.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you were
What?
commenting on the fact that all of these problems belong.
Okay, I know what the problem is. I used hardware acceleration, and now it doesn't want to do it. I have to find out where's hardware acceleration. Is there a search thing? Like, where am I going to find hardware acceleration in here? I changed something in here and I fucked it all up. Okay, you know what? I have it saved. I have something saved here. Let's hope it's still there. All right, tools. Here, go back. Simple. Video. That part's good. Oh, there you go. Hardware accelerated. Disable. Okay. Let's try that again.
Ma'am.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Man, that sucks. I don't have videos anymore. What happened?
Constitution. Not really. I say this with great affection and... Ma'am.
All right, listen to him.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And you were commenting on the fact that all of these problems belong to Joe Biden, and they do. However, if it wasn't for your vote, we would not have Joe Biden in the White House.
Right.
Joe Biden shouldn't be there. And all those wonderful things that you and Trump were doing together would be continuing, and this country would be on the right path.
So she's upset that he didn't overthrow the government. She feels that she doesn't really believe in democracy. She's saying like you're supposed to overthrow the government and continue your Nazi policies. Why didn't you overthrow the government, Mike Pence?
Do you ever second guess yourself? That was a constitutional right that you had to send those votes back to the states.
No.
It was
Nope.
not like you were going to personally elect him. We all
So-
know by the number of votes that were there who won that election.
Well, let me speak to that
Changed
issue.
history for this country.
Yeah, let me speak to the issue, because I think it's an issue that continues to be misunderstood, but I know by God's grace I did exactly what the Constitution of the United States required of me that day. And I kept my oath. But let me be very respectful of the question and tell you, look, states conduct our elections. You never want to let Washington, D.C. run elections. And you certainly would never want one person in Washington, D.C. to decide who the President of the United States is going to be.
You were just sending it back to the states.
Ma'am, let me explain it to you. States conduct elections. Iowa, where I live in Indiana.
It crashed.
And after there were questions in a half a dozen or so states, we had reviews of the results, 60 different lawsuits that went to the courts. Where there are questions, there's two ways that they're reviewed. Number one is you take those issues that's in the state for recounts, okay? Secondly, you take them to the courts, which we did very aggressively. Now, there were voting irregularities that took place. You had a half a dozen states that changed the rules in the name of COVID, but the courts upheld those changes in virtually every instance, and in every instance where they would have had any impact whatsoever. At the end of the day, when Iowa certified your results and sent them to Washington, D.C., when Indiana certified our results, the Constitution of the United States in Article 2 says the job of the Vice President is to serve as the presiding officer of a joint session where you open and count the votes. Don't take my word for it. Go read the Constitution. Not really. I say this with great affection and respect. The Constitution is very clear. My job was to oversee a session of Congress where objections could be heard, and I made sure that objections would be recognized. So we would hear whatever evidence or whether debate there was, but the Constitution says you open and count the votes, no more, no less. The Constitution affords no authority for the Vice President or anyone else to reject votes or return votes to the states. Never been done before, should never be done in the future. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's actually what the Constitution says. No Vice President in American history ever asserted the authority that you have been convinced that I had. But I want to tell you, with all due respect, I said when I announced, President Trump was wrong about my authority that day, and he's still wrong. I believe it with all my heart. Now, that being said, I am encouraged by the fact that states around the country have been passing.
All right. Anyways, Mike Pence is getting harassed by Republicans because he didn't overthrow the government. She believes, even now, that Donald Trump got the most votes. How can she even think that? How can she think that Donald Trump got the most votes, even now? How is that even possible? Because Fox News spreads lies and pollutes the information environment. So she is so confused that she is on board with overthrowing our democracy. She's so confused. And who confused her? Fox News. and Donald Trump, they work together. But yeah. Donald Trump could not have confused her without the help of Fox News. Just like Tucker Carlson is nothing without Fox News. Fox News is the platform whereby a bunch of lies get spread and misinformation. That's why that lady was confused about Mike Pence's role. And why I'm afraid that they're going to try to overthrow the government again, because a lot of people are still confused. What's that saying? If you've been bamboozled long enough, you can't. It's almost impossible to get unbamboozled. because you just get, you know, it just becomes a part of you. Anyways, you know, I'm gonna add Media Player Classic. Where'd that go? I just had it. Media Player Classic. And there it is. Okay, so I'm gonna add this here. Add video capture. No. Media. Is it media source? Window capture. Window capture. It's called MPC, Media Player Classic. Oh, it's right there. Add existing, Media Player Classic. Okay. Oh yeah, it's right there. Check it out. It's on. All right. So here, I can go like this.
There's virtually no doubt that FBI Director Comey and the great special agents of the FBI will be able to collect more than enough evidence to garner indictments against Hillary Clinton and her inner circle, despite her efforts to disparage them and to discredit them. If she were to win this election, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial.
A sitting president under felony indictment? You mean like what's happening to Donald Trump right now? Donald Trump is under felony indictment. All right, well, at least that part works. All right. I think that'll do it for me. I'm tired. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we can do it. I think we can. I think there's a. If we can defeat our mini bosses, I think we can. We can save the world. All right, that'll do it for me. Well, here, no, actually, I want to go back to the. Still there, right? Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's the raid. I gotta get out. Quit. Saving quit. All right. Well, that'll do it for me. I'm done. Have a good day, guys. I know. Stay aware. Stay aware. Be aware of what's happening. Awareness is key. Use your. Yeah. Be sure to be able to see distinctions within things. All right. Until next time. But go get it out. Peace. Stop.